Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. Tonight, we have a very special guest. He has been the voice of, I don't know how many wrestling organizations, Southeastern Championship Wrestling. He's been in the Gulf Coast. He's been all over Georgia Championship Wrestling at one time.
Charlotte, Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, I mean, just about any show worth going on, he was on it. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Les Thatcher's back with us. Always a pleasure to have him. Welcome back, Les.
Thanks, Rodney. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys.
We're within a month of the big extravaganza that's going to be taking place in Knoxville at the Old City Performing Arts Center on March the 18th. We are a lot of attention. I mean, a lot of buzz already for sure. We've even got some of the great radio stations. WIVK is now coming on board. It's an exciting time. We're going to, as we've talked about in the weeks prior to this, this is old school wrestling. This is not, if you're used to seeing that same old cookie cutter thing that you see every week, you're going to be in for a disappointment. There's plenty of that out there.
Or at least a surprise.
Yes. And for those of you who've never seen it before, it's going to be completely different. And for those of you who have and experienced it before, it'd be like coming home for sure. Les, tell us about, you were one of the hosts of Southeastern Championship Wrestling in Knoxville. Tell me about that first show you did. And I think that was at Channel 10.
No, actually the first show we did after Fuller bought it was at Channel 26 up on the hill. Yeah. John Kazana he worked without a net, as the old saying goes, right? They had no format. They had nothing, right? Everything was just play it by the seat of your pants. And okay, it's a good place to throw a finish in. Here's a good place to throw a promo in. And the first day I came in for Ron, and I said, okay, let's sit down and put our TV together. Where's your formats? He said, I don't have any formats. I said, what are you talking about? You don't have formats. And he said, they don't use formats. And so anyway, I said, get me a ruler, a pen, some stationery. And I drew up a format. You've got that copy of that format.
Yes, we've got it.
Historic. Is that going to be in the archives or anything? Anyway, we went down like to Kinko's or someplace and got copies made. And then, so then we filled it out and made copies for the people at the station. And when they walked in the next day and I handed the director a copy of format, he said, we don't use formats of wrestling. I said, we do now. So we modernize it a little bit, right?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then those local shows like in Knoxville, Nashville had one, Chattanooga, Atlanta, I believe very important for sure. And getting that message out, and certainly gave, and I truly believe those shows were more a part of the culture, a part of the life of the everyday people who lived in those areas, and I think made a stronger connection to the fans for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one of the things, Rod, is that you might be standing in line to check out the grocery store. Somebody said, I saw you on Southeastern Wrestling, or I saw you here, I saw you there, right? Well, that just cost me in stories. I got 61 years working.
We like him.
Right here in Knoxville, actually just across the street from where I live now, the apartment complex I was in, a former UT football player lived there, and he was playing Canadian football. He was off the season. So I was down at his apartment and the doorbell rings and this big dude comes in, man. I mean, he is large, right? And so Hubert introduces us and okay. So finally he says, I know who you are. You're on that wrestling show on Channel 10, right? And I said, yeah. And I introduced myself. He said, I ought to be a bad guy on wrestling. He said, I'm in Coach DeVoe's doghouse all the time. He played basketball at the University of Tennessee. Well, fast forward, he ended up being a heel in everybody's promotion. It was Kevin Nash.
Well, so Kevin Nash was in Knoxville.
Was playing basketball at University of Tennessee, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's just so that shows how powerful those shows were. And everybody,
Yes.
it didn't matter what demographic is. And I think primarily, I would say wrestling of today or the sports entertainment is primarily men watching the product now. Would you think?
Yeah, a whole different. Well, those Saturday morning, whatever country or state you were in or city, if they had wrestling, you hear stories all the time, right? My grandfather
Yeah.
rush home and sit down in front of the TV set, or
Right.
we never missed this, we never missed that. And it was, well, and again, like I say, because we lived in the region. So it wasn't like we were just on television, but you might see us at the movie, the restaurant, and Lord knows people, hey, I know you. And, so, but that was good for business. That was, well, you mentioned IVK earlier, right?
Right.
Okay. I can't remember his last name. His first name was Bobby. I do remember. Was a general manager back in the 70s. And we met. He did a lot of the clubs here in town, and we had met. And so anyway, long story short, on Friday nights after the matches at Coliseum here, I'd come back to my place and call IVK. They would record the results. This is Les Thatcher from blah, 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 blah. Next Friday night, blah, blah, blah. They ran that with every news all the way through to Saturday afternoon. Bobby always said, wrestling, stock cars, and country music, they all belong together. Right?
That's right. Absolutely right. And
Yes.
that was the number one station, had been the number one station for years. And I think still is the number one station in Knoxville. And so
Yeah.
to have that important, that shows how important the wrestling show was. If the biggest country station in town wants to be involved, sure.
Yeah. Actually, the biggest country station in the region.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because it's got a big reach. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
right.
We used to go on there with some of the disc jockeys and, hey, stop by and, okay, hey, get on with so-and-so. And so, we were part of the community.
Absolutely. And I think that's truly missing.
Yes.
It's truly missing. And as I said in kind of an editorial here one night, and it's not that I was trying to tell you, okay, we're going back or it's better. No. We're just saying you've missed out. You just missed out.
Right.
That being a part of that, seeing your live TV program and then going to the live events that week, wherever it might be, you just missed the opportunity. Wrestling may come to town ever so often, not regular. And those regular schedule events were the events that my grandmother went to at the Coliseum in Knoxville or in the auditorium in Chattanooga.
Right.
She was there every single Saturday night, watched TV every single week, made it to Atlanta a few times. But she would not miss it. She would not miss it. Yeah. And like you were saying, it's always a family member who brought the kids in to watch wrestling.
Right.
Jack's talked about his grandfather is one that brought him to watching wrestling. He watched Nick Goulas' show from Chattanooga. And just like mine, my grandparents all watched the wrestling. And when we went together as a family.
Yeah, well, that's how I started going, my mom and dad.
Yeah. So I think absolutely a family affair, even though I think that it's veered away from being a family affair.
Well, can I comment on that?
Sure. Go ahead.
They talk about ratings and ratings, of this demographic and that, so many of this kid or so many of this adult or so many over this age. And we just shot to get the whole family there.
Exactly.
We weren't looking for children. We weren't looking for old people or the whatever. We just wanted to get the whole family out. So we tried to project, give something that interested and drew everybody in.
Right. And if you go back and you look at the old tapes, just check the front row. There's families sitting on the front row. It's not just all one group. No, there's families. There's older people, younger people, kids, everybody sitting in that crowd. And very important. Wrestling always has been a family affair. Let's take a look at the graphic that we have for our show coming up. This is going to be Championship Wrestling coming to Knoxville. Going to be at the Old City Performing Arts Center on Friday, March the 8th. Go to livechampionshipwrestling.com for more details and for tickets for the event coming up. There's a limited amount of seats available, and we expect a big time. And the wrestlers are in for it. Let me tell you right now, they are definitely going to be in for it, because we begin the first 2 rounds of the Championship Wrestling Championship tournament that's going to be up there. And many people say, well, a tournament. Well, I can tell you this is going to be like something you've not seen before. It's not going to be boring. You're going to say, well, it's old school, or they're going to be laying in a hold. I don't think so. They've only got 15 minutes to get this thing done. If they don't get it done, both guys are going to be, or both wrestlers will be eliminated from the tournament. So this will not be one of those. This is to be very aggressive. And I think in this type of match, surely where a long-term match might benefit people who are smaller, the bigger guys I think will definitely have the advantage in this one, because it's going to be short spurts to make it. But like I said, we'll have no sympathies for those who go to the time limit draw. Both will be eliminated.
And there are rules, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I don't know if I've ever told you that I booked a year-long tournament in Los Angeles back in 2012 and 13 called Race for the Ring. And it was a little different to this, because it was a tournament. We had scoreboards and a clock, right? You were wrestling against the clock, and whoever ended up with the most falls and a 10-minute time limit. And if it was both guys had the same amount, with 3-minute sudden death overtime. But the point was, like you and I have talked about this show coming up in March, do not touch my referee. You push him, grab him, you're disqualified. End of story.
Right.
On the ropes, when he tells you to break, you better be able to count to 4, because 5, you're gone. 10 on the floor, 9, your butt better be back in that ring, right?
Exactly.
Now, we had 36 tournament matches over that year. I mean, we had other matches too, but the tournament itself ran 36 matches. In that 36 matches, I allowed 3 dives over 36 matches.
Wow.
And here's the clever thing, Rodney. None of the people asked for their money back or went home. If you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing, right?
Right.
And they told, and you know what Adam Cole was, well, I had a lot of current big names on that tournament, but Adam said to me in the middle of the tournament, he said, you know what is so much fun about this? I could be creative. And I said, hell, you should have been creative anyway, right? That's exactly what this business is about.
Exactly. It was funny when you were describing what you did, and the vision that we have for this, almost identical. I mean, this like we had the same mind. We've tapped the same thing for sure. And something that we're definitely going to be pushing. There will be no over the top rope. Over the top rope will be a disqualification for this promotion. So there's no throwing people over the top rope and then making the dive. You can try it if you like, but it's not going to get you anywhere. It's just that will be the end of that. Let's just say. I think it's important. Go ahead.
A lot of the young people will say, when you talk about, we're calling it old school, I just call it the right way, the art of professional wrestling. When I tell people I teach, I say, I don't teach an old way or a new way. I just teach the right way.
Correct.
But that's the thing. The young people, when we did the thing in LA, once they got accustomed to it, they were into it, and they were bringing their friends. And it's a lot of young people, young wrestlers will say, well, the people don't buy that anymore. My answer to that is, if you know how to sell it, they'll buy it.
Exactly. And I think that what we're talking about is less, like we've talked about before, this will not be character driven. This is not going to be one of these things that somebody's going to be putting on their character and coming in and playing in the ring. That is not what this is at all. This is a competition, just like you would watch like a musical competition or like American Idol. You're coming. Nobody knows who you are. We're not interested in what little character you've come up with.
Right.
We're interested in you and what you can do. And that's what many of them have been very open to the idea. This is something that it's all about you. We're not concerned about where your character came from. We're concerned with where you came from and what you've done and what your wishes and your dreams are, not some person that you've made up in your mind. We're gonna try to make this as real as we possibly can, and bring people, because I think that when people see someone coming from a place of real, they will make a better connection with the crowd, in my opinion.
I think so. Well, I think today the fans are open to that if you gave it to them.
Sure.
I said to somebody just the other day, we were talking about current styles and stuff, and they're saying, "Well, people don't buy." I said, "Do you remember when Brock Lesnar split Randy Orton open? Was it on purpose? Was it a shoot? Was it an accident?" I said, "The point is, I don't know. You don't know, but it created talk."
Yes.
Because it wasn't something you were used to seeing, and it wasn't scripted, right? Or at
Right.
least you did. There, this to me, Rodney, simply today with so much of the characterization and the handshake, we got to have a catchphrase, et cetera, that if you went back to basic professional wrestling, it would draw the people because they're seeing something they actually have never seen before.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Do you have? I know you don't watch a lot of the current stuff, and of course, as I do the Observer podcast.
Well, I do. I fast forward through them.
Well, I do a lot of that too. Have you seen Adam Page and Bryan Danielson?
I have not.
Okay, the 1 hour Broadway for the young fans. That's a draw. They went to a time limit draw, 60 minutes. But my point is, so many of the current young fans aren't accustomed to anything like that. In fact, I saw on social media one person had left a comment saying, "Why would they put a 1 hour match in a 2 hour show?" And and nobody could follow that. What he didn't understand, nobody could follow that 1 hour. It stole the damn show, right? But
Right.
it's not it's knowing how to do. And I think the biggest thing, the difference currently, it's about, we call it cheap pops, but they're just about pops, right?
Right.
Let's face it. Roddy West could walk out in the middle of that ring up here on the 18th, drop his pants. He's going to get a reaction, but
Yes.
It doesn't mean he's a heel or a baby face or a star, right? It's just, and I think that's what so many of the current thing is about, getting a reaction. But, old school, if that's what we're going to call it. You hated the heels. You loved the baby faces. And the only reason there were riots and people got stabbed and kicked and stuff thrown at them is because they created that image in the fans' mind. And,
Exactly.
And when young guys say to me, "Well, everybody's smart," I said, "You're not very smart for saying that. Because no, everybody's not smart. They know wrestling is predetermined, period. But they're not smart to the business." And but then those same people that are telling you that, I'll say, "Do you have a favorite movie?" "Oh, sure." "Okay, what is it?" "Well, how many times have you seen it?" "I've seen it 4 times." "Okay. Why?" They don't really know either until great acting. The story is compelling. It's drawn you in, right? The way it flows is, and I said, and always, whatever that movie is, the big finish is not in the beginning or in the middle, it's at the end. They are taking you along for an emotional roller coaster ride and telling you a story. And great professional wrestling and great professional wrestlers do the same thing.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Let's go ahead and get some comments in here. We'll not get too far away.
Okay.
And we'll say hello to some of the people. We've got Richard Hood, great insider, great wrestling fan as well, from Atlanta. He used to go back to the old days of wrestling at TCG at Channel 17 in Atlanta. Tremendous place. We've got James William Lawrence III. That's a wrestling name if you ever heard one. Oh, gentlemen. Kevin Penley is with us tonight. Hi, I've been looking forward to this. Kevin Penley. Mickey Mayfield Say happy February 22nd, 22. Very good. Michael Rollerson on the program here tonight. Wendy Harkins from down in Dothan, Alabama. She's down there, and apparently weather pretty bad down there in her neck of the woods. Glenn Shelton's with us. Here's a good name for us. Demetrius Papadopoulos.
Papillon.
Okay, there we go.
The Golden Greek. He wrestled for me.
Oh, did he?
Yes, Jimmy. Yeah, how you doing, Jim? Love him. He was in that tournament I was telling you about in L.A. Yeah, he actually went down to the semifinals.
Wow. Okay. Well, we've got a wrestler with us here tonight as well. All right, here we go. Richard Hood. Les, did you win a Cadillac tournament in the Atlanta in the early 70s?
No.
Okay.
I won a Chevrolet tournament in the late 60s in Memphis. And I won the first ever 2-ring battle royal in Atlanta, which got me a trophy, but no cars.
No cars. Okay. Charles Bellflower. Always good memories of Les and Gordon Soley on Georgia Championship Wrestling.
That was my mentor.
Yeah, Gordon.
I say, Rodney, if there is a Mount Rushmore of wrestling commentators, I've worked with them. Soley, Ross, Lance Russell, and Bob Cottle, right? And I got to throw in Charlie Platt too.
Yeah,
I know they only put 4 in Mount Rushmore, but Charlie was a hell of a commentator too. But like I say, I've worked with Mount Rushmore, so yes.
Got Rick Brooks is with us tonight. Yale Man has made his appearance. Just wanted to say hello to everyone. Kevin Penley, yet again. How did Les meet Doc Young?
Actually, we started doing a show years ago. For one of the first wrestling podcasts, honestly. I started doing podcasts with Doc in 2004, I think it was. And he was producing a podcast for, I can't remember the guy's name, somebody in Texas. And they had asked me to be on it. And so I was. And the host, quite frankly, was kind of a jerk, right? He knew more than you knew, right? Here, I've never wrestled, but let me tell you how wrestling should be. And let you and I debate whether you know what you're talking about or not, right?
Right.
So Doc was, I guess, sort of embarrassed by that. And so later in the week, he called me and apologized. I said, that's all right. You expect things like this occasionally. So anyway, then he said, how about you and I doing a podcast? So that's the way it all started. And then we ended up, he had health problems, crazy. And he was out for a while. And so we did nothing. Then he got back to me and we started doing the Observer podcast. Hell, Rodney, I guess that's been probably 16 years ago or more. And because Vic Socia, that I do it with now, we've been together for 11 years or more. Doc passed away, 3 or 4 years ago. But just a great and a huge fan. I used to laugh at him because someone would say something negative about the podcast, right, on the social media, and he would go off on these people. Right? And I said, Doc, don't worry about it.
Excuse me. We've got Anita McNeil was with us tonight. Dennis Mitchell has a question. Hey, Les. Excuse me, and Les too. How good was Paul DeMarco? He was before my time. Les, how would Homer Odell as a manager? I guess how was he as a manager? Thank you, Dennis Mitchell. Les, I gave you a free plug on Sports Radio 740 Montgomery. You'll be on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out tonight. That's great. Thank you.
All right. Well, good for you. And thank you so much. Paul DeMarco was a damn good worker. Paul and I were roommates in Charlotte for a period of time. He was a crazy man, but he was a hell of a performer. Yeah. Good worker, good, solid worker. He's still around. Someone told me he was into the spiritual world. I mean, like some sort of religion or something, which wouldn't surprise me if he's turned to be a monk. That wouldn't surprise me either. But a talented worker, he sincerely was. And Homer Odell, one of the most crazy human beings I've ever met in 61 plus years in the wrestling business, but a hell of a manager he was. And you will talk about heat, Homer could get heat. There was never any doubt about that.
Yeah, his time in the Charlotte, just tremendous. Tell us something about him. I know he managed, I think, Bronco Lubitsch, seems
He
like.
managed he managed Bronco and Aldo Bogny. I think he managed Rip and Swede for a while too. He was managing up in Calgary. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember who he managed in Calgary. That's the first time I met him, was 1962. But talk about heat. He ended up shooting a guy trying to get into his trailer in Charlotte. I mean, didn't kill him, but
Yeah.
it also, but it came up to that. But yeah, Homer was a heat magnet. He
Wow.
was never back. I mean, and even when he wasn't in the ring, right? I'll tell you a quick story. The first year I was in Charlotte, 1963, before I moved, I was at the Mecklenburg Hotel, which is on Trade Street in downtown Charlotte. And I heard something outside my room. I was like second floor, I think. And I had a room on the street, facing the street. And I heard, it was a weekend, Sunday, I think it was. And I heard somebody outside noise. I'm thinking, what's that? And I look out the window. Homer's drunk. And he's out on Trade Street, leaning on a mailbox, cutting promos on the people walking by. So I guess he thought, since at the time Bronco was staying at the Mecklenburg as well. I don't know if he thought, well, if trouble comes, I'll run in there and get Bronco and we'll double up on it or what. But yeah, this was Sunday night. It was dark, but it was like, 8:30, 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. He's out there cutting promos on fans.
Let's see, we got Anita McGill. I might have hit her twice. Sorry about that. We've got David Bryce. Good evening, guys. Can't wait to see the show and meet Les coming up on the 18th. We're looking forward to it. We're getting a little nervous now. The time is rapidly coming on us.
Always get nervous for a show, right?
Yeah, always.
Yep.
What wrestler would be the most fun for Les to work with?
A bunch. I was blessed. I have been blessed, period. I mentioned working with the Mount Rushmore of wrestling commentators. I have been blessed to be in the ring with some of the most talented workers. I say workers, not entertainers, not characters, workers, this business has ever seen. Harley Race, Pat O'Connor. My God, people like Terry Funk. I mean, that's just a few, but you almost run down virtually every heel I've ever worked with in any territory, or at least I'd say 80%. And I would say they all were extremely talented. And I've had more fun in my life than I should have, I think, Rodney. God's going to punish me for that at some point, I'm afraid.
Well, I call it a blessing. Just go with it. Take your blessings. Wendy Harkins, I'm going to try to be there in March. Oh, we would love to see you, Wendy. Absolutely love to see you. This is going to be like we're talking about, old school, but it's more traditional wrestling for sure. We can't wait. It's going to be a good night, I think. And it's going to be up close. It's going to be like the old studio style. There's not going to be, you're not have to sit behind, up in the nosebleed section. It's only right at 200 seats. So every seat's going to be a great seat in the house, for that one especially. Let's see, Michael Barr. He's from down in the Dothan area. Les and Rodney, of course, Glenn Allen Shelton, saying hello.
I just saw a message up there. I missed the name. Somebody from Dayton, Kentucky, was just across the river from my hometown of Cincinnati.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. He was wanting you to rank the Nature Boys: Buddy Rogers, Roger Kirby, Ric Flair, Buddy Landell.
Well, I would say the only switch I would make in the names you've got in front of me here, Rogers is the man, period. End of story. He was my childhood idol. But I don't give a damn. Jarrett, Flair, nobody, Fargo, nobody struts like the Nature Boy, like Buddy. No. I get up and show you, but my cord on my head's It won't allow me to.
We may do that on the 18th.
I
We'll
can
have
do I used to be able to do it when I was a kid, the Buddy Rogers strut. Buddy, without a question, number one. Flair, number two. My brother by another mother and former tag team partner and world junior heavyweight champion, Kirby, number three. And Buddy Landell takes up the hindsight. So,
yeah. And if you look right behind Les, right up the top, it says Les Thatcher and Roger Kirby right there on the poster right behind him.
Yeah, that's a Georgia poster.
Well,
all right, we were against the Andersons.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Boy, I would have loved to have seen that. I would have loved to have seen that. Mickey Mayfield, Les, who was the hardest wrestler you ever to get along with?
Well, you know what? I guess I try to put things like that on my mind.
Right.
You know?
I get it.
I never had really any conflict, with any of the guys that I worked with. I mean, you don't always see eye to eye, but it's a crazy business. You go into a locker room, people of all religions, nationalities, et cetera, and it's a business. You're working together. You're not necessarily living in the same house or. So
what I found was when we were growing up, and it changed about late 80s, it started to change. But when we first started, it was one big family. And we traveled together. We ate together. It was a family, and that's the way it was. We were treated. We were treated like family. Right. We would have people would come stay with us at our house, and they would eat and go out, and we go to the show that night, and then we'd come back and we'd start it all over again. Harry Thornton was great on his show at his time. That's what he was talking about, David.
That was what, 4:00 on Saturday afternoons on
3:30.
3:30 was it?
And at one time it was on at 5 in the afternoon.
I filled in for Harry. Nick called me when I was living here and said Harry was sick or something. It would have me come down and fill in for Harry on the show. Yeah.
You were awesome. You were awesome on that show. Let me just tell you. I think Schultz and Condrey came down with you on that day. It seemed like.
I don't remember who was here. You talk about working televisions. One of the marathon television days of my life started right here in Knoxville. Dennis Hall and I, we were living in Nashville at the time. We're based out of Goulis's office. We had wrestled here on Friday night. We stayed over. We did TV here on Saturday morning. Then we went to Chattanooga and did Harry's TV on Saturday afternoon. Then we went to Birmingham, which was live after the news on Saturday night. Right?
Wow.
A TV here in Knoxville started like at 10 a.m. or 10 or something like 10 or 10:30 Saturday morning. And the last show we worked was in Birmingham at like 10 or 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night. And then we had to drive back to Nashville to go home.
Wow. So it went Knoxville TV. Then you went to Chattanooga TV. Then you did the house show at the auditorium in Chattanooga.
No. Chattanooga was Thursday nights then.
Oh, okay. And then you went to Birmingham. So basically, Saturdays was basically TV day.
Yeah,
the entire time.
Yeah. Well, there were some shows. Blytheville, Arkansas ran on Saturday night. John Kazana ran Morristown or Newport usually on Saturday out of here. But yeah, those 3 TVs. And then how many miles? I don't even know, from here to Birmingham and then back to Nashville, and wrestled 3 times.
Now, think about that. Would you change your thing? You knew, even though you know it.
No. I wouldn't. No. I love what I do, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. After 61 plus years, this is who I am. This is what I do. And I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about what the hell.
That's kind of like when we first started. We would go to Atlanta TV on Saturday morning. Then we would run to Columbus and do the TV in Columbus. And then we go that night to either Carrollton or to Griffin. Best day ever. I would not change a thing. Just the best day ever. And we got to hang out with the wrestlers. I don't know. We would have the who's who sitting in the passenger seat wrestling with Wrestling 2 or Steve Kern, Ted DiBiase. It was a great time. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was just an awesome time. David Bryce. That's the reason I love indie wrestling. And of course, that's what we were talking about our wrestling event coming up on March the 18th. Wendy Harkin, my dad got me into wrestling. And again, it was going back to what we were talking about, how our families, grandparents and parents got us involved. And it was really a family affair when they went to the show. That I missed. I missed that because even, like I said, we would sit with my great uncle and grandmother, and we'd all be gathered around the TV watching the show. And then later that night, sometimes we'd go down to the auditorium as well. Andy McDaniel, he's the author of the reunion at County Hall.
He's the Reverend Andy Daniel.
Yeah, he's tremendous book, by the way. Tremendous book.
I was invited to that reunion, and I just couldn't make it.
Wow. Dad was able to make that one. He's actually in the book, and tremendous book, and a lot of great memories. Charleston, another great wrestling town. Tell us, do you remember working at County Hall in?
Oh, sure,
in Charleston?
Absolutely. Friday nights.
Kevin Penley, less opinion of comedy wrestling.
I don't have one.
We had the Attitude Era. Now we have the comedy wrestling era.
It looks to me sometimes currently that WWE is going back to plumbers and hockey players and Freddie Joe Floyd and all that sort. I don't know why. I truly don't. We had little bits of comedy in our wrestling, right? Sure. But they were organic. People didn't know, hey, they're doing a comedy spot, right?
Right.
There was no such thing as a comedy spot, right? Cornette may get excited and go to hit somebody with a racket, and they move the right time, and he misses and slips on the floor, takes a big pratfall. Yeah. People pop. But Jimmy doesn't say, hey, I made you laugh, didn't I? Jimmy takes it. He's serious, and he's still selling, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think a lot of the comedy I see today is just stupid, sophomoric. And it's obvious these guys aren't comedians. I don't know who writes their stuff, but they need to find another job, I think.
Adam Lewis wants to know if he sent you a picture, if you'd sign it for him.
Oh, why, sure.
Absolutely. We'll get you in touch.
Send me a blank check with that, if you will, Adam.
Jimmy England, Les, I'm from Morristown, Tennessee. I saw you many times at the Tally
Ward. Yes.
At the Sherwood the baseball field right beside of it. Right. Morristown, great town.
It was great town.
And he ran that, and you said it was ran mostly every Saturday night?
Saturdays, yes.
Wow. Richard Hood, keep the guys on the mat and you'll have less injuries.
I don't know about that. But, well, yes and no. The crazy, how many neck surgeries, Rodney, have we seen over the last, say, 10 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how many did we see, say, in the 60s and 70s?
No. And honestly, wrestlers back then, if you got hurt and could not wrestle, you lost your spot in most cases. Yes. And it's very hard to get it back again. Now there's some exceptions to that, but most of the time, an injury, you have to be careful, or that there not only goes on your career, then goes your spot, and it's hard to get them back.
And sometimes guys came back too quick because of that.
Yeah, they did. Wendy Harkin, I would rather see the right way other than what is out there now. Better reaction from the crowd.
Yeah, I see some matches that I'm thinking this is not very good, and then I hear the fans start chanting, "This is awesome," and I'm thinking, "What are you smoking, or what am I missing?" Right?
Yeah, I've seen that, and I think I've talked about it before on the program. The worst thing I'd ever seen was when Kurt Angle did the moonsault off from the top of the cage and missed. And instead of the people being concerned about Angle, they were doing that clapping, "This is awesome," which told me that Angle, you just wasted your time doing that. You waste your time. They could care less about you. They're there to watch the train wreck. And it's, I felt for him. I felt bad for him, actually.
Yes.
Pat Rose is on. You know Pat?
Old stiff Pat Rose, sure I do. I thought you went fishing.
Still at Pat, great wrestler, no doubt, and does a great radio show too. I listen to it on occasion here in Chattanooga. Rick Brooks, I am from a small town. This is what you were talking about. I'm a small cross of the Ohio River from Cincinnati, Dayton, Kentucky. I was curious if you enjoyed your one and only run as a heel in the Maritimes back in the 70s.
I enjoyed the Maritimes. It was the only time in my in-ring career that I was a heel, and that was 1970. And of course, if you were an American draft age and happened to be in Canada, they just figured you were a draft dodger, right? That's it. So you became a heel automatically. It wasn't like you tried to be. You're an American and you're draft age and you're over here. You're a bad guy. You've got to be.
Well, did you enjoy it? Was it different than what you had been doing?
Well, I had never wrestled heel before, so it was like a learning process, and it wasn't. Maritimes ran a season. They started in April and ran into mid-October, right, and then closed down for the rest of the year. So Rudy Kay, who had been my tag team partner in Charlotte, was the promoter, and I'd never worked heel before, so it was a learning process in a way. And it didn't last because I was Freddie Sweetan's partner, and then we had a feud. And, so then I turned back babyface, which worked out beautifully because that's the first place I ever did wrestling play-by-play was for Rudy and the Maritimes in 1970.
Another one, a great insider, Victor Nash. He'll remind us things if we forget it. He's very good. And we forget a lot.
I heard that.
Richard, thanks taking us here. Don Gardner, good afternoon from Don. Wendy Harkin again. I actually live near Huntsville. I'm sorry. I may say Dothan. Dothan's a great town. I love Dothan.
I wrestled there a few times.
They got great food down there. Got Charlie Platt too. You can't beat that. Oops. That's Victor Nash saying hello to Richard. Let's go down here. We got Victor Nash. Nobody better did it better than Gordon Soley.
You're looking for an argument, you won't get it from me. He's the yardstick. JR says the same thing. We all looked at Gordon as a mentor. Well, when I first started wrestling, most commentators, if you want to call them that, were local TV celebrities who had their own talk show or a kiddie show or something. And to be very honest, they didn't know wrestling, and they were getting, I don't know, $25-$50 or whatever it was to do the show. And they honestly spent more time getting themselves over, I think, most of the time than the wrestling product. I mean, they were nice guys. They just, were like fish out of water in this situation. And when I was made Rookie of the Year in the National Wrestling Alliance in '67, it was my first trip to Tampa. And Gordon, I thought, my God, this guy does it like it's a shoot. And it really made me want to give it a try. I had always had a suppressed desire as a teenager to be a disc jockey, right? Dr. Johnny Fever or, Venus Flytrap or somebody, like that. I always thought that was cool. So once I saw Gordon and we became friends and of course worked together in Atlanta, but more importantly, race cars were part of our allure to one another. He was doing the Golden Gate Speedway in St. Petersburg, and I had been drag racing since I was 15 years old. So we bonded on that as well as the wrestling and became friends. But once in seeing Gordon, I thought, if I'm going to do it, this is more the way I want to do it. I think one of the nicest compliments I ever got was a few years ago, people asking JR questions on his website. And someone had asked him, how was it to work with me as his color man? He said, I never looked at Les as my color man. I looked at him as an analyst. And I said, thank you, because that's what I was trying to be.
Perfect. Kevin Barkwell, glad that you're doing well, Les. You and Gordon are without a doubt the two best to ever do it.
Oh,
loved your work on Southeastern Championship Wrestling in 1978 through 1979.
Thank you very much. Can you send me a check?
Michael Rollerson. Every Saturday afternoon, he watched Championship Wrestling from Florida with Gordon Soley. Victor Nash. What are your thoughts about AJ Styles signing a multi-year deal for $3 million with WWE?
If he hadn't signed it, I'd have thought, has he lost his friggin' mind or what? Right? When I saw that today, and I thought, I don't know why it's news. You offered me a $3 million a year contract. Where's my name go? Never mind.
Exactly.
Right.
Michael Barr, what was your toughest match in what territory?
Oh, wow. Again, toughest match. I never worked. Well, I shouldn't say I never worked with any crowbars. I worked with my share. And guys that weren't particularly great wrestlers. But honestly, I don't remember a lot of them. I truly don't. You always, I think one of the things about being a good worker, being a real pro, is being able to adjust to your opponent. To me, that's one of the things that I've always said. Well, when I had a promotion, the person I'm going to put the belt on is the person that can carry somebody else if they need to, right? But then that was as you became a veteran, you got carried by the veterans as you were getting your feet wet and learned the business. But once you became a veteran, that was unspoken that was part of your job, right? You take a guy out there and he's lost his way, you cover that for him because that's what you do. Let's make this as good as we can and hide the bad things if we can do that too.
Exactly. Les, what was your take on the Georgia promotional war in the early 70s?
I was right in the middle of it. I had been in Charlotte, and that's when Tim Woods and Jack Briscoe had a little piece of the action there. And Jack, this is a long story, but it's a funny story. Jack had wanted me to come down. He said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Sure," because the idea was to phase Gordon out because he was flying in every week from Atlanta, or from Atlanta to Atlanta from Tampa. But the idea for me was to also, because, they knew I did public relations for Crockett and PR and did the magazine stuff. So they wanted me in the office to write the weekly program as well, and help Leo and them out. So anyway, I said, sure, it sounds like fun, but Jimmy Crockett didn't want me to go. And so what do we do here? Right. So I get a phone call from Eddie Graham, who was involved with helping the NWA fight the war in Atlanta, obviously, because Gordon's there and the different NWA promotions were sending talent in. So anyway, Eddie says, here's what we're going to do. You give your notice there and tell them you're coming to Tampa to wrestle. Then you pack up and your way through Atlanta to Tampa, you drop your furniture off in Atlanta. Then you come down to Tampa and wrestle for a month or so. And then you go back to Atlanta and do the television, which is what we wanted you to do to begin with. Right? And honestly, I didn't want to create Charlotte was a great territory. I got along with the Crockett family. And I mean, it was a great time for me there. And I didn't want to burn that bridge, So thankfully, I didn't have to. And I don't know, I think maybe Watts talked to Jimmy as well. But anyway, Jimmy finally said, okay, you want to go. And I continue to do the magazine there, for them still while I was down there. But yeah, it was, the crazy thing is, we both ran the same building, the old Atlanta Auditorium. We both did TV in the same TV station. In fact, in the same ring, right? We'd be leaving as they're coming in, and Ed Capel would say, "Hi, Les, Gordon. Hey, Ed, how are you?" But we were both companies were drawing. We were selling out on Friday nights. They were selling out on Tuesdays, right? But in the long haul, because their access to fresh talent was kind of cut off, because obviously the NWA promoters weren't going to work with them, and the guys that didn't want to, incense the NWA promoters weren't going to go there either. So, as you know, all talent's got a shelf life. I don't care if you're Ric Flair or the most insignificant person in the world. At some point, you got to move on. And so it was tough for them. And they finally folded their tent and went away.
Wow. Got Mickey Mayfield. What promotion was the best or worst to work for?
I don't know. There's never a worse promotion. I tried not to go to worse promotions or places that I'd heard horrible stories about. The best, I'd say, right here in Knoxville, Charlotte, and Atlanta are probably the three that I enjoyed them all. I've listen. If the good Lord takes me tomorrow, Rodney, I've lived enough life for three people. Hell, I'm not suicidal, but hey, if it's time, it's time.
Sure.
But here, Charlotte and Atlanta, and I think the main reason is because in some of the pursuits that I was involved in all three places, I was given my head and allowed to create, opposed to being buttonholed and say, okay, do this, move this arm, move.
But wasn't that kind of routine for all the promotions back then to kind of give the very talented people the lead way to do what they need to do to help draw the house?
Yeah, that was, or at least give you that talent input, right?
Sure.
And of course, once I did a good job at TV for Rudy in Canada, that when Mr. Crockett's Jim Sr., then that opened the door there. Once I did well there, then there was Atlanta, then there was, here and there, here. And then once we scored, we did things here that had never been done in wrestling television that's still being done today.
Yes.
And we were told they wouldn't work.
Yeah. Set the standard. And like you're saying, everybody followed the Knoxville show. It was amazing. Rick Brooks loved the Beast and Ruby Kay when they worked for the Sheik's promotion in 68 as Pierre and Maurice LaBelle.
Yeah. Well, that's where I first met. Well, it wasn't in Detroit for the Sheik, but when I first worked for Barnett in 1962 out of the Atlanta office, that's where I first met Rudy and the Beast. Ivan, his brother. He was the oldest brother. And good guys, both talented. The whole family, Leo Burke, Bobby Kay. There's 15 kids in the family. They all didn't work, right? But the four that did were damn good at it. They certainly were.
Richard Hood was wanting to know if you ever worked with Nick Bockwinkel when he was in Georgia.
Became friends with Nick. Never wrestled him, though. Worked, did commentary over matches with him. What a talented guy. What an intelligent guy. And,
a class act.
Yes.
No, the consummate professional.
Yes.
Just the epitome of what you would want in a star and a wrestler. And a tremendous gentleman. Michael Barr, did you ever tag team? And who was one of your best tag team partners?
Michael, where the hell have you been? Let's see. If I ever have great tag team partners, let me count the ways. Roger Kirby, Dennis Hall, Nelson Royal, Rudy Kay, Scott Casey. Who am I missing here? I work the amazing Zuma some in Charlotte.
One that we talked about last time when we did the long form. If you haven't seen the long form me and Les did, you got to check it out. He talks in depth about Whitey Caldwell, one of your great tag team partners.
Another great tag team partner. Yeah, I was. I don't think I ever had a bad tag team partner, to be quite honest with it. God blessed me with good people that prop me up and help me look good. And I hope I help them look good as well. But tag team wrestling has taken a whole nother, it was so important back then.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of secondary, sadly enough, and it shouldn't be.
Right. Absolutely. And wherever we were at, your tag team champions were a major draw. They just wouldn't kind of just like and included with the card,
right?
Especially where we were at. Michael Rollerson, Les, do you have any good rib stories to share?
I've got several, Michael, but I'm sure some of them I can't say on the air. How's that? Wrestlers are always ribbing somebody. Yeah, that's. Have you ever heard about the Mabel ribs in Calgary?
No,
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 you've never heard of them, Rodney?
no. Mm-mm.
Oh my God! How can you be around your dad and everybody? Son, I'm going to sit
He
you
wasn't.
down.
He would.
Sit you
I
on.
think. I think he saved those because he knew we'd want to do them.
I'm going to sit you on the knee here, son, and teach you. In Calgary, they had a rib called the Mabel rib, right? And what they would do is they would get with one of the guys and start talking about this cool, really cool woman that lived on this farm outside of Calgary. Her husband was a pilot, commercial pilot, right? She loved wrestlers, right? And if you took some drinks out, she would make you happy, right? She enjoyed, and that sort of thing. So they set the story up, right? So finally, okay, we're going to take you out to meet Mabel. And they did this with Don Jardine once, and I forget who. I know Jardine. I don't know Jerry London. Anyway, so they take this wrestler out to this farmhouse, right? And Mabel answers the door, and she's in a negligee, right, and everything. And so everybody sits down at the kitchen table, and and the guy's taking you out and saying, now be sure to get this kind of beer and some alcohol and stuff. So we're all making drinks and sitting down at the table and drinking, and they've got this guy thinking, all right, man, this is the night, right? All of a sudden, the back door burst open, and the husband is home without notice, and he's got a gun, right? Run for your life, they tells Jardine, right? So everybody takes off running, right? Out across the fields, right? There's an open field. The guys pulling the rib have choreographed this. They know where they're going, right? And the guy playing the husband, whether it was her husband or not, I have no idea, would get out a shotgun and fire it in the air.
Good stuff.
I don't know if it was Jardine. This is the story. It's been a long time. I see somebody says Stan Stasiak pulled that on Jardine. He found hid in that fields or somewhere, and they had to go looking for him the next day. I mean, they could not find him that night, right?
That was good stuff. Good stuff. Jimmy England wants to know any good stories about Morristown.
Oh yeah. Listen, what we're going to do? Let's do a story night, right?
Yeah.
A lot of stories. Well, this is always a good one. Whitey and I are wrestling Ron and Don in Morristown. And the ring did not have a ring skirt. What I mean by that, if people listening don't understand, that's the cloth thing that goes around and covers the framework of the ring. Well, this ring didn't have a skirt. So if you were sitting ground level, you could see under that ring. So in the middle of the match, we're all four in the ring. And Ron says, throw me out and follow me. So I pitch him. Follow him out. He shoots under the ring. So I go under after him. We're on our hands and knees, obviously. So we get about midway under. He turns. We start throwing punches. He said, I'm going to tape you to the ring. I said, what? He pulled a roll of athletic tape out of his tights, nails me, and I go up against the frame. So he starts taping my neck to the framework, right? Now we're on our hands and knees. And so now he's looking past me. And he said, oh, freak. Oh, hell. I said, what? In his eyes, he said, oh, hell. And then he starts backing out. We came in from this way. He's backing out. He's not taking his eyes off of whatever's behind me, right? I thought, what the hell's going on? I can't turn around. So finally, in my peripheral, he's out now and back up in the ring. And in my peripheral vision, I finally see motion. And here's a fan with a knife that has come under the ring to help me. Right? Ron's gone now. And I'm starting to, and he turned, he said, I'll get you loose, Les. And he comes out. I said, I got it, right? It's okay. I thought, no, please don't cut me loose with your knife.
And I want you to hold that story because Joel Mate was going to say, but I want to respond to this. This is the response to Mr. Hood, Richard Hood. He was talking about doing more mat wrestling and preventing the injuries and that kind of thing. And Sean made a point saying that people don't have patience now for a snapmare and a 10-minute headlock. And I'll let you respond to that.
Should I straighten Sean out?
Yes, go
Is
ahead.
that what you want me to do?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Sean, how's this? I never sat in a 10-minute headlock. I wrestled for 20 years. Never sat in a 10-minute. What we did out of a headlock, we might work it on the mat, work our way to our feet, run a spot, drop down, tackle, leapfrog, grab it again, take the guy, and work it again. Now, over that 10 minutes, we may have run. Well, we wouldn't have worked the headlock back probably for 10 minutes, but half that time we'd run a spot maybe every minute, right? So there was never laying around in a 10-minute headlock.
No.
However, let's fast forward, Sean, to 2021, where I see two guys at the same time take a big bump and lay there. And lay there. And then you get up and take another big bump and lay there.
Yep.
And lay there. Or better still, how about somebody puts a figure four, which Flair, Rogers, and anybody else worth a damn made their opponent give up in 30 seconds or so. And here are these two guys laying in a figure four for 3 or 4 minutes. How boring is that? So I guess it's how you decided what you like, because I never laid around a 10-minute headlock. So,
and to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, many people could get away with doing that. Most people won't, because if you lay in a 10-minute headlock, you're not coming back most of the time.
Right.
Promoters don't put up with that, for one thing. But the reason that, and I think a snapmare and a headlock, the reason that a lot of people will start yelling boring is simply because those wrestlers that are in the ring have not made the emotional connection to the fans. In other words, they are not over.
No,
they are not over.
But don't tell them they're not over.
Yeah.
Right. Don't let them in on the secret.
And that's the point. I mean, you could think about Lawler, Dundee, in Memphis. They could do just about anything.
Well,
it's because of our over.
Let's get into details. That's your brother said, I want you guys to talk about what you think old school is.
Right.
Okay. Old school is details. It's crossing your T's and dotting your I's. It's not just doing something to get a pop and then moving on to something else, which is unrelated to what you just got the pop from. Right.
Right.
Okay. So here's the thing. If we're working a headlock, if I have that headlock, the key word is working it. I hear rest holds. I never had one. I don't know what the hell a rest hold is. Never was in one. We were resting, but the point is there was movement. And that's what I teach today. Tell kids, if you got the headlock, then you're working to maintain it. The guy in it is working to get out of it. So there is movement. So you give the fans something to anticipate, right? Now, I agree. If you just lay there like a limp rag, I'm going to get bored too, right? But that part of understanding how to work is keeping the people into what you're doing. Yeah. And as long as there is movement of some sort, they're anticipating what's going to happen. Right. So it's an art, gentlemen. Yeah. It is an art.
If you ever want to check out a match in which people were standing with a headlock, you've got to check out the match between the Mongolian Stomper and Bob Armstrong from Memphis. Look it up. You'll see what happens when you have two very talented people. Bob Armstrong has the headlock on the Stomper, and as he starts grinding that headlock, those people come to their feet at the Mid-South Coliseum. Tremendously gifted people.
Well, you want to see another match, which we call babyface match. This is, speaking of the Atlanta War, this was 1973 from Gunkel's Television. It's Dickie Steinborn and Tommy Sigler, which it's I tell guys to watch it because it's a great match. No, two wrestlers in combat.
Yes.
And one kid, after watching it, said to me, I don't understand. That guy Steinborn kept going back to the same hole. I said, that's because he's a wrestler. You telling me you don't know why he kept going back to the same hole? If I want to beat you, I've got to take out one of the 5 points of balance, your arms, your legs, or your head. And so if I'm working the arm, I'm going to keep going back to the arm. That's part of telling the story.
Exactly. Absolutely. It's perfect. We was talking about the Sheik there. Paul was talking about he's from Canada. He was talking about your Les Canadian connection.
Oh, I worked Calgary too, Paul, on the other end of the country for Stu Hart.
James has a question. What was your opinion of Charlie Harville in High Point, North Carolina?
I you know what? I always got along with Charlie till Mr. Crockett sent me up there to do color. And Charlie, I guess, thought that I was there to take his job.
Wow. Because
I'm assuming that something was said to Mr. Crockett. I'm talking about Jim Sr. now. He was still alive at the time. Because I never went back. But after the show was over that night, Charlie said to me, Les, I promise you I won't wrestle if you promise you won't become an announcer. I don't know how many guys I've worked with. I've never heard it. Nobody had ever said that to me before. I mean, when I say that, I'm not mad. That Charlie was protecting his job, basically. But up to that point, I'd always gotten along fine with Charlie Harville.
Wow. Let's see. We've got, Joel Bateman, Bobby Heenan, the greatest manager of all time. Wendy Harkin. Wendy, have a good night, everyone. It says the weather's beginning to amp up.
And you be safe, Wendy. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap it up here. We went just a little long. I'm sorry if we didn't get you all in tonight. And we of course we'll have to have we'll try this last one here. Let's see here. Norman Carr, what was Wrestling 2 like in the dressing room? Did he really keep his mask on?
Yes, he did. He could have gone to the Carter inauguration because Jimmy's mother was a huge Wrestling 2 fan. The reason he didn't go, because he couldn't wear the mask. Of course, Secret Service wouldn't allow that. And so he didn't go.
Wow. Yeah.
It's called being professional, Norm.
And he was serious.
Deadly.
Yeah.
Deadly serious.
Yeah, he was serious about that mask. And Charles Alfred, we didn't get to say hello to him. And as always, we like to thank everybody who participates. Without you, we don't have anything here. And we hope everybody's going to be able to get out to the big event coming up in Knoxville. It's coming up on the 18th. Tremendous night of action. We're going to be the beginnings of our tournament to crown the championship wrestling champion. Tremendous wrestlers. You may not know them now, but by the time this is all over with, you're going to definitely know them. We're going to be enforcing strictly the rules. Les Thatcher will be doing the commentary. So like I said, it'll be like coming home. It'll be like coming home.
I'll try.
Always.
I'm actually looking forward to it, Rodney. I certainly am.
Well, we are definitely looking forward to it. We've got 16 very eager wrestlers going to be on this card. We've got 2 women wrestlers that's going to be. And in fact, I think one of them is kind of insulted that she's not be able to perform. They'd be able when they be in the men's tournament.
Oh, jeez.
She had something to say. Hey, you're letting men get into ours. Letting all these men get into our part now.
If you were having a mixed match, woman versus man, I would take the headsets off and say, you call it. Because in reality, let's face it. Let's cover that fallacy quickly.
Sure.
Put Ronda Rousey in with Brock Lesnar, and the minute he gets a hold of her, it's go home time.
It's over. Exactly.
If he gets a hold of her 2 minutes in, it's gone. I love Tessa Blanchard. I had an opportunity to train with her. She's a hell of a worker and a hard worker, right? Men's champion in Impact? Absolutely not. Ever and never. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Well, like I said, she said that, and we looked at her like, what? Anyway. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that's going to be on March the 18th. It is going to be a tremendous night of action. It's going to be a lot of nostalgia. Les Thatcher will be there. We've got 16 great wrestlers, 2 women wrestlers on the card as well. We'll start at 7:30. Tickets are at livechampionshipwrestling.com. I do believe this is right. Get your tickets there. It's going to be an extraordinary night. We can't wait for it. And as always, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us here. As always, thank you, Les. We will see you
Always
on
a
March
pleasure,
the 18th.
Rodney. Looking forward to the 18th.
I'm telling you, it's going to be big time. And until next week, hopefully we'll have the entire full cast back with us here next week. This is Rodney West for Les Thatcher. We'll see you on the next Pro Wrestling Inside and Out.